Odyssey remains strong.
With the recent development of the Mars rover Curiosity landing on unknown ground, the world is rejoiced in mutual feelings of human advancement. The journey to the Curiosity launch can be relatable to Apollo 11's mission to the Moon, an unexplored surface in the 1960s. Neil Armstrong, Edwin Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins brought upon one of NASA's and mankind's greatest accomplishments, as the three men showed 500,000 television viewers what an unexplored surface 238,000 miles away looks like. Apollo 11 has proven the technological capabilities of mankind. The Apollo 11 mission is a turning point that has taken a giant leap for mankind. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, was formed on the aspiration of unifying its rocket program during the Cold War. The Cold War between the US and the USSR allowed for much advancement during the 1950s. Russia was first to capitalize on space development by sending the first artificial satellite into orbit, the Sputnik 1, in October of 1957. As the US wanted to surpass the USSR in the space race, the NASA program was formed. After NASA established programs, the race to put an American into space began. One of the beginning missions, the Mercury mission, beginning in 1959, accomplished this task by placing 38-year-old Alan Bartlett Shepard in the Mercury, Freedom 7. On May 5, 1961, only 23 days after the Soviets were the first to place a man into the great unknown, Shepard flew the Freedom into space, becoming the first American into space. This would inspire the United States to take their space exploration programs further. Thus, the Apollo program began in 1961. President John F. Kennedy proclaimed a goal on May 25, 1961, for NASA to place a man on the Moon.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the Moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
Thus, the days in NASA until the launch were busy. For 8 years, scientists, engineers, and physicists have calculated the many aspects of the mission. Some involve the capsule functionalities, the trajectory of the Eagle towards the Moon, and how much thrust can propel the aircraft into lunar orbit. According to modern marvels,
the spacecraft they shared was designed to be a quantum leap beyond the Mercury and Gemini capsules. It was much larger and more capable.
The command module itself was still incredibly complex. I mean, if you look at just this cone-shaped craft that had to be crammed with all these different systems, you know, the environmental control system to provide the oxygen and the cabin atmosphere and keep the astronauts comfortable and maintain the pressure inside the cabin. And then attached to that command module, the service module, this cylinder that contained the main rocket engine that they would get into and out of lunar orbit.
After much preparation, the Apollo 11 was ready to be launched into lunar orbit at Cape Kennedy on July 16, 1969. The crew to make history was made of Neil Armstrong, the commander, Edwin Buzz Aldrin as the lunar module pilot, and Michael Collins as the command module pilot. They were launched in the Columbia capsule into the great unknown of space with hopes of landing on lunar surface. On the 20th, as the Columbia launched the Eagle, the Columbia landed on the Sea of Tranquility on the Moon. Armstrong stepped off the capsule and is fascinated by his surroundings. He announces his famous line,
"It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
According to Telegraph from UK, during Armstrong's revelation, an estimated 600 million people watched Apollo 11 landing live on television, a world record at that time. Armstrong and Aldrin were on the surface for 2 hours. They set up scientific equipment and gathered samples of soil and rock 50 pounds in weight for scientists to examine. They also held a conference with President Nixon through telephone. When all exploration was finished, the men left a small plaque that said, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the Moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind." After much exploration, the two men lifted off of lunar surface and returned to the Columbia, where Collins awaited them. The 3 men returned successful and landed in the Pacific Ocean off of the coast of Hawaii. The astronauts were welcomed back on Earth with applause from everyone. As the Columbia sits in the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C., the astronauts also retire from their journey. In an interview with Neil Armstrong, he describes the moon as
It's a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen, although there have been some reports of seeing planets. I myself did not see planets from the surface, but I suspect they might be visible. The Earth is quite beautiful from space and from the moon. It looks quite small and quite remote, but it's very blue and covered with white lace and of the clouds, and the continents are clearly seen, although they have very little color from that distance.
Neil Armstrong retired from the NASA program in 1971, leaving a legacy behind him. This single mission has accomplished many of mankind's aspirations and dreams. Many developments have arisen from this mission that makes it a major turning point in our history. One of Apollo 11's many accomplishments was becoming a victory in the Cold War. It was a counter to the Soviet Union when they had launched the Sputnik 1 in October of 1957 during the Cold War between Russia and the US. With a civil rights movement, the Vietnam War, President Kennedy, and the Cold War during the 60s, this mission allowed everyone to rejoice and celebrate for once. A major scientific advancement arose because of the moon rock and soil samples brought by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin from the moon. With these samples, scientists are more excited than ever and can unearth more facts about the universe and what surrounds us. The most obvious effect on human society is the advance of technology that has propelled itself. Even during the build of Apollo 11, significant advances were made. According to Scott Hubbard, part of the NASA faculty for 20 years, states, power consumption, mass, volume, data rate, all the things that were important to making space flight feasible led to major changes in technology. A little told story is how much NASA, from the Cold War up through the late 80s or early 90s, affected technology. After the mission was accomplished, further advancements were made. According to Computer World, it's fairly well known that technology developed by NASA scientists routinely made its way into products developed in the robotics, computer hardware and software, nanotechnology, aeronautics, transportation, and healthcare industries. Without this mission, ordinary technologies such as the laptop wouldn't exist. With the 2 astronauts' success, society associates these astronauts with outer space exploration as the first men on the moon all the time. They are a common name in society. This mission also accomplished the personal goal President Kennedy set for America. Unfortunately, he did not live long enough to see his dream come true.
30 feet, 2.5 down. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
And to conclude the many successes of Apollo 11, hundreds of people and millions of dollars were brought into Apollo 11 to make this mission an actual success. With the lack of technological advances, this was truly a remarkable feat during that time. The year 1969 has presented a great accomplishment. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin have left a major legacy that has affected many future technological advances and NASA's programs, including the Curiosity launch. With the first moon landing, it brought the planet Earth as one and made a giant leap for mankind.